Mystic Spearhand is one of the coolest and most flashy vocations in Dragon's Dogma 2, practically being a medieval Darth Maul with access to strength and magic damage. And I'm glad to say that he has a wide variety of not only useful but very powerful skills. Let's rank every skill in the Mystic Spearhand vocation from worst to best. Moment's Charge is definitely the worst Mystic Spearhand skill in Dragon's Dogma 2. This on use is going to consume a rather large section of stamina as well as health. In return, you instantly charge up your max stun and shoot it out. The big important feature this vocation brings to the table is actually stunning enemies. You can briefly stun them or charge up a massive stun that completely neutralizes enemies for a significant amount of time. Moment's Charge is meant to cut down that I think about 10-second waiting time and give you the longer stun right away. So in theory, this is pretty great because in about 1 second, you can make anything, even large monsters, way less dangerous. However, the downside here is far too great. It consumes a massive amount of your health, and in my experience, it doesn't feel that bad to have to charge up the stun when you want to. Now, what it doesn't do is consume max health, meaning any mage on your team can make this skill much more usable, and if you're already in a healing bubble, why not waste less time? But with so many good skill options, this one can't really compete, especially since the stun is still on your character even without Moment's Charge, just not quite as quick to cast. Seeking Storm is the equivalent of magic missiles from D&D or any true RPG. Summon up 4 small magic projectiles to auto-track the nearest enemy. With very little stamina cost, they don't hinder you in any way, and more damage is more damage. But man, they don't hit hard at all. On an almost level 100 Arisen, they still barely decrease the health of basic enemies. On further testing, I did find some interesting uses for this though. First off, they're largely there to deal with flying foes. Harpies and succubi can be especially deadly from melee-based vocations as they swoop in and out before you can really react. These not only deal good damage to both of those enemy types, but also manage to stagger or stun lock them in place. Then you also have the fact that these require no animation from your character, meaning you can activate Seeking Storm while in the casting of other skills and melee actions, letting you do some pretty interesting things like stamina suck large bosses and infinitely cast magic missiles. Their low damage makes this pretty mediocre no matter what, but fun nevertheless. Largely, this is a skill you may want if you tend to focus on more melee-based combos where pressing the skill button real quick doesn't require much effort. Unto Heaven is the most amusing ability in Dragon's Dogma 2. This creates a vortex in front of your character that pulls in medium-sized or lower enemies. After a spin of the blade, you'll whack the vortex, sending anyone in it to the moon. Obviously, this is quite literally useless on larger monsters, but the ability to instantly disappear every other enemy is quite good. Most of these thrown ragdolls die to fall damage or at least get sent somewhere they can't bother you from. Early on, this can be great because it's a way to take on enemies you aren't really equipped to deal with, like some of the other Saurian variants. Poison and Geosaurians in particular can be troubling to deal with depending on the class, and now you can ignore them entirely. Ultimately, this is not all that good because the vortex pull isn't as aggressive as you want it to be, and it makes you extremely vulnerable while casting. So if even one enemy makes it out of the vortex, they can get free attacks on you. But the ultimate yeet button will never not be fun, and sometimes that's really all that matters. Devout Offering is the Force ability from Star Wars, and that's pretty much it. You create a magical force bubble in front of you that picks up objects and enemies. Then after a bit, you throw them in any direction you like, dealing solid damage to enemies hit by these quote-unquote objects. I have to admit, I had so much fun with this skill, it really cannot be overstated. You can pick up boulders and boxes just to throw them. You can take already dead enemies and create more dead enemies with those. Or pick up an entire group of goblins and juggle them together. The only requirement is that the enemy be out of a neutral stance. So hit them until they stagger a bit and you're good to go. Sadly, this also doesn't do anything when you get to the bigger monster fights, and it too is a locked-in animation where you can get hit while activating, hurting the versatility by a large margin. However, it is quite literally incredible when facing any group, and we all know how often groups gang up on you, especially in the desert. Or heck, just one pack of dogs is all it takes to ruin your Arisen's day. This is not only Jedi Knight levels of fun, but super useful in those situations. Ravenous Hand is a very simple yet effective skill. You latch onto any close opponent with your left hand and start siphoning their life. Instead of siphoning in health, like most often would be the case, you rapidly regenerate stamina. At any point in combat, you can completely regen your stamina bar within 2 seconds for free. Very handy when fighting monsters because they're a much larger target and can often be knocked or not actually attacking you. Correctly time this and you will not be in any danger. Plus, the only downside of Mystic Spearhand is that the class is a ridiculous stamina hog. You devour that precious resource with almost every skill. Equip this and you can move in and out of skill combos relatively quickly with way less downtime. My only negative about this skill really is that a mage with the master skill can already give you infinite stamina. That and a good 2 other pawns and you might find it a bit unnecessary. But for those spamming this class's master skill, you will always want Ravenous Hand, making the two a brilliant combination. Magic Speargun is the coolest and best ability for Mystic Spearhand that you're gonna hate. So let me explain. This pulls back your twin blade and begins to charge up magic. It consumes stamina as you do so, and the more stamina you consume, the more damage it deals. Upon release, you're going to send out a large magical blast, dealing massive damage. Problem is, the longer you charge, the more wild the reticle or aim of the attack becomes, leading you to miss almost every time you shoot this if you go for the big damage. On top of this, I found it never really hit where I wanted no matter what. Even if it hit vitals directly, it being an AoE caused the blast to do damage in a different spot instead, giving it a huge RNG attack feel that gets annoying pretty quick. On the same note, we did actually find out how to fix this though, and that is to never use more than about 3 seconds of stamina. This, for some reason, still deals crazy good damage while missing far less, and we found that charging it for less time actually lets you shoot more often, leading to more damage overall. Because this skill can be cast over and over pretty quick, and it gets some pretty nice stun attacks if you keep going and going. Kinda feels like a Kamehameha, giving you an awesome power fantasy. Unfortunately, the range really is not that great, making it better for mid to real close up. But I'm not gonna lie and say a Mega Magic Blast isn't something I want on me at all times. Sky Dragon's Fest is one of your very few dodge options for Mystic Spearhand, instantly making it one of the best possible options. You can spam this anytime you like to teleport above foes and smash down on their head, or you can counterattack as an enemy swings at you, dealing far more damage. Used specifically for a counterattack, it can really make quick work of enemies. Also, being able to hit harpies out of the air very well, the Fest can become extremely versatile. One cool use for this is to actually jump up on top of monsters. As a Mystic Spearhand, your ability to climb monsters is at best abysmal. He just has the worst attacks for this. Instead, you want to be walking up on top of the beast's head so you can twirl your blade or use other skills. Often, this leap up above can get you onto the backs of dragons and griffins, which saves all of the stamina and time you would otherwise be using climbing up there. The only issue with this strategy is that for most other monsters, it's kinda pointless. It might reach their midsection or back about halfway, and then you slide off to the ground, just because especially Cyclopses are far too tall. But it can work great on Chimeras and Minotaurs as well, making it an incredible tool for small and large foes. Plus, it's a counterattack which requires very little effort to actually counter. And who doesn't love that? Mirror Shield allows you to summon a blue shield around you and all of your pawns in range, making you completely immune to all damage for about 7 seconds. I don't really think I need to explain further at all. You can do anything in combat while taking 0 damage and make your pawns survive far longer as well. The only cost here is that it requires a large chunk of stamina to actually activate, meaning that while you can pop it repeatedly, you can't while also using a bunch of your other skills, largely staying focused on melee attacks instead. Why is this not a bad thing? Well, it just so happens that this class's most reliable high damage attack is actually the spinning twin blade, which is not a skill, allowing you to be invulnerable and still take out opponents in a timely manner. Pair this up with the skill regenning your stamina or a good mage and you can stay invincible for the entire game. Very fun to eat a dragon's attack with no reaction whatsoever. And heck, the effect itself looks pretty darn good too. Wild Fury is the master skill for the Mystic Spearhand. It summons a mystic clone of yourself and then wildly spins the twin blade as fast as humanly possible. Spamming this skill repeatedly grants you a large attack that ends with massive damage and stagger. This is the best damage possible that can delete groups in an instant, as well as take out chunks of monster health before they can react. The best benefit is that due to the successive attacks in such a short amount of time, it often staggers large monsters in a single combo, which then gives you a shot at their weak spot. The downside, of course, is the stamina cost because it's your entire bar. Using this twice always results in you being out of breath and vulnerable. so you really need to pay attention to how much you have when you activate the ability. However, if a mage has the infinite stamina dome up, you can absolutely hammer that button and trash whatever is standing near you. Half the time I just verbally say it's my turn now, and then I really dish it out. If you manage to get directly under a monster or on top of one, this will hit in multiple places and feel fantastic to pull off. Plus, that nice twirling flip at the end always gives me chills. Dragon's Foin is the best skill for the Mystic Spearhand vocation. Oddly enough, it is the very first one. Using a minimal amount of stamina, this thrusts you forward, dealing both physical and magic damage. Your damage is quite high, and the distance traveled is incredible. Most games like this would have a dodge roll. Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't do dodge rolls, so you can deal with combat in different ways. This is the way for Mystic Spearhand. Just like you can attack any enemy on the screen with this, you can also get away from any situation, making it almost too easy to avoid Dragon Slams or Fire Breath. Mobility is going to be king here, and throwing your ability to stun right after means you insta-kill everything below a big monster. Dragon's Foin away, charge up a stun, Dragon's Foin back, and press Y to finish him off. With the lower stamina cost, you also never really feel pressured to slow down, and being able to shove enemies back for just a second will save you every single time. It doesn't usually get you on top of enemies that well, although it is possible for that to happen. No, mainly you're going to be flying around the map, jumping over bridges, and staying safe all at the same time. And there you have every skill in the Mystic Spearhand vocation ranked from worst to best. Almost every skill in this class is extremely powerful. There are only two options that most will never use, but at least aren't completely worthless. Unto Heaven is really fun, and getting to feel like a force user really gets this class to come alive. You suck down stamina like no other, but the speed and versatility of any Spearhand user will make you a menace to both bigger and smaller foes. Easily the best addition to the Dragon's Dogma series, with nothing else quite like it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if so, a like down below would be fantastic. Thanks for watching everybody, and I'll catch you next time.